Hi everyone, my name is Mark Moykins from Big Mountain Studio, and today we're going to cover animations, but more than that, we're going to cover how to chain animations. And what I mean by chaining animations is you do one animation, and then when that's finished, you do the next animation. When that's finished, then you do the next animation. There's a technique to it, and I'm going to teach you how to do that. So what we're going to animate is this UI right here. We're going to fade in the background, and then fade in this title, this description, and then this button and this text down here. And I'm going to show you a finished example of what that looks like. Okay, just like that. So the background animated in, it faded in, and then the title faded in, and then this description faded in, and then the button and this text down here faded in. All right, so let's get started and show you how to do that. I'm starting off with a single view controller project, which already has some elements on it. It has an image. Yeah, I'll show you here. It has a background image, some text, and it has a button down here and some more text. And with this, I already have a view controller with outlets created for all these elements. We have our background image and all of our labels and our button right here. Okay, so also you might notice that this button right here, yeah, let's make some space here. This button right here is it's called UI button X. It's a button that I created myself that allows me to more easily make round buttons. And if you want to learn how to make round buttons, then you can watch this video here, which I created earlier in the year. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is everything is visible right now. So I want to change the alpha to all of these objects to 0 so you can't see anything. Now I could just as easily do that on my storyboard, but instead I like to keep the alpha as 1 on all of my objects. So if I need to change them around, I don't have to go and turn everything back on, and then when I'm done, turn the alpha back to 0 so everything's invisible again. So what I'm doing instead is I'm just going to do that in the view did load. Okay, now for my first animation, what I want to do is fade in this background. The way we have it right now is everything is invisible. So the first thing I'm going to fade in is my background. And I don't want to do it in the view did load. I want to do it in another function instead. I want to do it in the view did appear. Because if I come back to this page, I want the animation to happen all over again. If I put the animation in the view did load, it'll only happen the first time this scene loads, and then it'll never happen again. But with view did appear, I can navigate off this page, come back, and the animation will happen all over again. So the animation will happen every time the view appears. Okay. Now all I'm doing here is with the super.viewDidAppear, it's basically going to call, well, you see I'm overriding it, so I'm adding my own functionality, but if there's any other functionality that Apple programmed, then I'm going to call their functionality to happen too. Okay, so let's start with our first animation here. Now, if you see my other video, you probably memorized now that all your animations start with UIViewanimate. Actually, you know what? I'm going to make some extra space here. We don't really need this open anymore. So I'm going to go to the view controller. There we go. So UIView.animate. And before, in my previous video where I showed you about the button menu, we just used this animation right here. Well, now we're going to use the second one. And you notice the second one is a little bit different because it has this completion handler. And that's very important for chaining animations, because basically the completion handler happens after your animation is done or is complete. So let's start with a duration. We'll just say we'll have it fade in over 1 second. And this is where our animation is going to happen right here. So I'm going to take my background image and change its alpha. Well, actually, the alpha on the image isn't quite 1. It's 0.6. And that's just because I needed to make it a little bit darker so the text would show up better. So I made it, maybe I need it equals in there too. So I made it 0.6 instead. Here, I'll show you something in just a second. What it's complaining about here is you need the word self. Whenever you're doing the animations inside this closure between these two braces right here, you have to refer to anything outside of this closure any of these properties here, you have to refer to them using self first. Okay, now for the completion, again, what this does is the code in this area will execute after the animation is completed. And that's exactly what we wanted, because after the background image becomes visible again, the next thing I want to do is show the title. So I just hit enter, and then for Boolean is just true, because it basically says, did the animation complete successfully? And you say true. And when it does complete successfully, then I can do the next animation. Okay, now my next animation, what I want to do again is call UIView.animate, because I want to animate that title into view. And again, I'm going to be using the same function for all these animations, the animations with the completion handler at the end. And it's going to be 1 second. And the animation this time is I'm going to be taking the title label and setting its alpha to 1. Okay, and then it's the same thing. If the completion was completed successfully, then we're going to do our next animation. And again, you'll notice I keep forgetting this. Luckily Xcode will help you out, and they'll say, you need to insert the self. So they do that for you. I keep forgetting to do that every single time. Okay, we have some animation happening right now, so let's just run it and see how it looks. Okay, the background animates in, and then the title animated in. Okay, everything looks great. So let's continue. Now the next thing I want to animate and show is this description label. So I think you can see how this is going. It's nested. So I'm going to create another animation, and on that completion, another animation. On that completion, another animation. So the code could start to get pretty ugly, and it starts to go deeper and deeper and deeper within itself. This is nesting. It's being nested. Instead, what I'm going to do is, how about if we make this a little bit more organized? Instead of doing this animation here, how about if I extract this into a function? So what I'll do is take this out, and I'll just have a function that says show title, like that. Now the function doesn't exist yet, but I'm just going to create it right here. Okay, then I'm going to put that code in there. And this way, it keeps all of your code more linear. See this? I told you, I keep forgetting the self every time inside of these closures. Someday I'll remember. And this will work just fine. And this is the recommended approach to chaining animations. It's not nesting them, so it's one inside the other and the other. It's to just basically call a function inside of here. Because then, if it may also make it easier, maybe I want to start the animations from the bottom and go up. So all I have to do is just change these functions being called. If everything was nested, that would be a huge refactoring on your code that could take some time. This way, if I could just change the function names for the order that I want the animations to occur, it'll be a lot easier. So let's continue with the next animation. We want to show the description label. So what are we going to do here? I remembered this time. Self. So I'll create another function called self show description, like that. And again, it doesn't exist, so I'll have to create it. Okay, so let's just create this on our own. Show description. And I think you know what to do now, right? So what am I going to call? UIView.animate. And which one am I going to use? The one with the completion handler, because I have another animation that's going to happen after this animation completes. Okay, in here I'm going to show, I'm remembering self more now. I'm more self-conscious. Okay, self, and we're going to show the description label. It's alpha, set to 1. And we'll have another animation after this. So what I do is, when my cursor is here, I just hit tab, and it highlights this template code right here, and I hit enter, and it'll change it to implement it, I guess. So I'll change that to true, then I hit delete to delete that code part. Okay, and I'm going to call another function. So after I show the description, now the last thing I'm going to do is show the button and the label. And if we look back at our, let's just take another look here at our storyboard. So this button and this label, I'm going to show them both at the same time. I'm not going to animate them separately. I want them both to come in at the same time. So what I'll do is I'll just say show button and text. Now I'll create another function down here. Function show, what did I say? Button and text. How about if I just copy that? There we go. Show button and text. And this one, when I animate this, this is my last animation, so I don't need a completion handler. I could just go with the animate function, which is what I'm going to do. And I'll give that 1 second. And for my last animation, I'm going to show the button, go button, and the text. Yeah, this label right here. Okay, so there's my chained animation. It starts up here in the view did appear, and it calls show title. When this animation is complete, it calls show title. When this one's complete, it calls show description. And when that's complete, show button and text. So let's run it and see how that looks. There you go. Okay, that looks perfect. That's exactly what we wanted. So I hope you guys learned something from this. It's a very simple way to chain animations, to use the completion handler to call another animation, and then another animation. You might be asking yourself, well, why can't I just do this? UIView.animate, and then have, a bunch of animations like right there. Whoops, I did that wrong. And then have a bunch of animations like that, one after the other. What'll happen is, basically, they'll all get executed at the same time if you do it this way. So if you have like a bunch of animations here, they're all going to happen at the same time. The completion handler is specifically built so you could do other things after this animation finishes. So when this finishes, then this is called, but they're not called at the same time. So that's how we chain animations. We use that completion handler and we call the next function, and then the next function, and the next function. All right, great. Well, that's all I have for you guys. I hope you learn now how easy it is to chain animations together, because you're going to be putting a lot of animations in your apps. Putting animations in your application will create a better user experience for your users. All right, thank you for watching. If you learned something new, go ahead and give the video a like. And if you thought this was really cool information that you want to share with your friends, go ahead and use the share button below, and it'll give you a bunch of different options to share it on Facebook, Twitter, wherever you'd like. And consider subscribing, because I'm going to be coming out with a few more videos on animation. And I'm going to teach you guys some more advanced animation techniques. All right, thank you.